Hi, this is Sociological Lens. I am Dr. Dilsora Fozilova. In today's lecture, we are going to talk about hacker culture and cyber deviance. Very interesting, I know. Today, we live in a world where technology and the internet shape much of our daily lives, from how we communicate to how we access information. At the heart of this digital revolution is a hacker culture, a subculture that's grown from the early days of computing into a complex, very complex and influential force in our modern society. While hackers are often portrayed as criminals or troublemakers, the reality of hacker culture is much more nuanced. It encompasses a wide range of activities from the creative exploration of technology to the political use of hacking for activism known as hacktivism. Hacker culture emerged from the desire to understand and master technology driven by a belief in the free flow of information and the idea that systems can or should be improved. Over the decades, it has produced both celebrated figures like ethical hackers working to safeguard our digital infrastructure and those who operate outside the law, engaging in activities that push the boundaries of legality and ethics. This leads us to the concept of cyber deviance, which refers to actions that defy social norms or laws in the digital space. Cyber deviance includes hacking for malicious purposes, online piracy, cyberbullying, and many other forms of behavior that challenge the traditional boundaries of deviance. In today's lecture, we will explore the origins of hiker culture. We will review some of the initial hiker groups, its evolution, and the ethical dilemmas it raises. We will examine how hackers have shaped technology and influenced modern society, while also discussing the darker side of this subculture. How some individuals use their skills for cybercrime and deviant behavior online. We will also take a look at how hackers have used their abilities to challenge authority and promote causes, often operating in a morally ambiguous spaces. By the end of this lecture, I hope you will have a deeper understanding of the different types of hackers, the motivations behind their actions, and how cyber deviance impacts our digital and physical worlds. Whether seen as innovators or outlaws, hackers continue to redefine the relationship between technology, society, and power in the 21st century. Let me share my PowerPoint and let's get into our lecture. The umbrella term or title for today's lecture is Deviant Subcultures and Technology. And when it comes to deviant subculture, we will be focusing on hiker subcultures. So let's start with hacker culture and cyber deviance. What does it mean? Hacker culture is defined as it refers to a community and ethos centered around creativity, curiosity, and the clever use of technology to solve problems, often in a unconventional or unintended ways. It emphasizes hands-on exploration, innovation, and the belief that information and technology should be open and freely accessible to everyone. The core elements of hacker culture is like creative problem solving, open access to information, meritocracy, decentralization of governance, like both in online and offline, ethical hacking versus malicious hacking, and also hacktivism. Well, if we want to understand what this key terms means or key elements means, for example, creative problem solving is hackers are known for their ability to find indigenous solutions to complex technical problems, often thinking outside the box or using systems in ways not originally intended. This sense of playful creativity is a hallmark of hacker culture. And open access information, another element of hacker culture, one of the key the principles of hacker culture is the belief that information should be free and accessible to everyone. This aligns with movements like open source software, where people can share, modify, and improve each other's work. Meritocracy, hacker culture values skills and innovation over formal titles or credentials. Respect is earned by demonstrating technical ability and contributing to the community rather than by holding official positions of power. Decentralization, another element in hacker culture, refers to the rejection of centralized control, whether in technology or governance. They favor decentralized peer-to-peer systems that empower individuals and allow for greater collaboration and freedom. And we talked about there's two different kinds of hacking, and ethical hacking versus malicious hacking. While some hackers use their skills to exploit systems for personal gain or malicious purposes, often referred to as like a black hat hackers. Others engage in white hat hacking, where they identify security flaws to help improve systems. There are also gray hat hackers who operate in ethical gray areas, sometimes hacking without permission but without malicious intent. Hacktivism is another very important part of hacker culture, which refers to the use of skills for social or political causes, known as hacktivism. Groups like Anonymous have become well known for using hacking as a form of protest or explore corruption and injustice. Hacker culture, therefore, is defined by innovation, a commitment to open information, and a focus on using technology to challenge systems, explore boundaries, and solve problems creatively. It spans a range of ethical perspectives, from those focuses on constructive hacking to those that push legal and ethical limits. So the first question is how this hacker subcultures emerged. The origins of hacker culture can be traced back to the early days of computing and the countercultural movements in the mid 20th century. Hacker culture emerged primarily from two distinct but related communities. Early computer enthusiasts who was very enthusiastic about their work on computers, and the countercultural ethos that rejected mainstream authority in favor of decentralized, open, and cooperative systems. One of the key hacker cultures in 1950s and 60s called MIT and the Tech Model Railroad Club, which is TMRC, which originated in 1950s and continued in 1960s. One of the earliest hacker communities arose at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. That's what MIT stands for in the late 1950s and early 1960s. The Tech Model Radio Club was a group of students who were fascinated by the university's early computers. At that time, the computers were early arrived, and then students were so fascinated by the computers, such as IBM 704 and the PDP-1. Those were the number one initial computers. These students, known as the first hackers, they were deeply interested in programming and exploring the possibilities of computing. It just computer looked like a future. Therefore, they were like enthusiastically focused on doing things and exploring the possibilities of computers. They developed the term hack to describe a clever, elegant, and creative solution to a technical problem. The focus of this early hacking was on playful experimentation and improving software, often in ways that deviated from intended uses. And Jack Dennis and Peter Sampson were first people who led or the head of this for cyber hacker cultures. The famous text editor Emacs and the operating system Unix later emerged from this ethos of sharing and improving code. A hacker culture was also heavily influenced by the broader countercultural movements of 1960s and 70s, particularly the anti-establishment ethos of that time. The ethos of freedom, openness, and communal sharing that centralized the counterculture of 1960s found a natural ally in the nascent hacker community. The belief that information should be free and that technology could be used to challenge centralized control was central to both groups. Publications like Stewart Brand's Whole Earth Catalog advocated for democratizing access to information and technology, further intervening with cultural aspects of hacking with these social movements. The rise of personal computing, it started in 1970s and continued in 1980s. The advent of computer, the personal computer, such as Apple II and later IBM PCs, further democratized access to technology. The hobbyist clubs like a homebrew computer club in Silicon Valley played a key role in the rise of personal computing and hacker culture. Early hackers like Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, and Bill Gates, co-founder of Microsoft, were part of this movement focusing on creating personal, affordable computers. This period saw a shift toward software development, including the rise of open source programming, which was grounded in the ethos of cooperative and decentralized, also a creation and improvement. Cyberhack, and then in 1980s, Richard Stallman and the free software movement, that was also very influential in the subculture, hacker culture as subculture. In 1980s saw the rise of cyberpunk genre, which featured the hackers as central figures in stories about dystopian futures dominated by corporations and oppressive governments. For example, William Gibson's Neuromancer, 1984, introduced the concept of cyberspace and hackers who operated within this virtual world. This cultural portrayal further solidified hacker as an underground rebellious activity. The release of movies like War Games in 1983 also shaped the public perception of hackers as individuals who could use technology to challenge authority or systems of control. The open source and free software movement in 1980s and 90s was it was as hacker culture matured, it became more formalized through movements like open source software and free software. Richard Stallman and key figure as a key figure in the free software movement advocated for software to be freely shared, modified, and distributed, leading to the creation of GNU project and the foundation of the Free Software Foundation, which is always often called FSF. This philosophy of openness continued to thrive through initiatives like the development of the Linux operating system, which was created collaboratively by hacking around the world. The open source movement embraced principles of transparency and the cooperative or collaborative improvement, which aligned with the original hacker values. The hacking crew public consciousness figures like Kevin Mitnick gained power in 1990s. Mitnick was one of the most famous hackers of his time, known for social engineering and breaking into computer systems, which led to his eventual arrest. In the late 90s, the hacktivism where there was like people culture involved into hacktivism, where hackers began using their skills to promote political and social causes. Groups like Anonymous and Litzes used hacking to expose corporate malfunctions and just over control, governmental overreact, and censorship, leveraging their skills to challenge the status quo. While some hacktivists or hacktivism has been viewed as beneficial, promoting transparency and exposing corruption, others have raised ethical concerns due to illegal methods they use for hacktivism. So the core values of hacker community or hacker culture, we can see it is like openness and freedom. That the openness and freedom is a strong belief that information and knowledge should be freely accessible to everyone, not controlled by corporations or governments. Stephen Levi published the book Hackers that called Heroes of the Computer Revolution in 1984, which detailed the early history of hacker culture, celebrating figures like those mentioned above, and introducing the concept of the hacker ethic. According to Levy, the hacker ethic includes values like the people who use, like, if that is about sharing information or hacktivism, which the governments or other governing bodies exposed for their wrongdoings towards society. Also, another value would be meritocracy, which is hacker communities tend to value skills and contribution over formal credentials or titles. That is also part of ethical values for hacker cultures. Those who can solve complex problems are respected regardless of their background. And as we mentioned earlier, some of the core values of hacker culture previously or historically was playful problem solving. They historically been about creativity and finding novel solutions to challenges, often in unexpected ways. And then decentralization, of course, we talked about that also. Power and control should be decentralized. It should be in the hands of, should not be in the hands of few, whether in technology or governance. Hackers favor systems that empower individuals and promote collaboration. In a sense, that hacker culture grew from a mix of technological enthusiasm, countercultural rebellion, and desire for freedom of information. This ethos continued to influence modern movements, from open source, the source software, to digital activism in our time today. So the key elements of hacker cultures are ethical hacking versus malicious hacking, or ethical hackers used as also called as white hats, and the malicious hacking used are called the black hats. So there is different kinds of the terms used towards them. Hacktivism and cyber deviance. So what are the cultural values of hacker culture? As we call it culture, hacker culture, we have to understand, why do we call it hacker culture? Hacker culture is deeply rooted in the value of creative problem solving. Hackers approach challenges with an attitude of curiosity, experimentation, resourcefulness, often finding solutions that others overlook. They thrive on using technology in unconventional ways, whether by repurposing software, hacking hardware, or developing entirely new systems. This sense of creativity is not just about technical skills, but also about the mindset of approaching problems with playfulness and innovation, which is why the term hack can refer to both clever technical feats and inventive everyday solutions. Another fundamental value of hacker culture is the belief in open access to information. As we know, the cultures have their own values. So as we will view hacker culture as culture that their belief systems is about open access to information. Hackers advocate for transparency and freedom in the digital world, asserting that knowledge should not be hoarded by corporations or governments, but rather shared with everyone. This principle has shared movements such as open source software, where code is freely available for anyone to modify, improve, and distribute. The philosophy behind this is communal sharing and collaboration led to better innovation and greater improvement for individuals. It reflects a deep-seated opposition to closed, appropriated systems and an emphasis on democratizing technology. Hacker culture also operates on the principles of meritocracy, where respect and status are earned through skills, creativity, and contributions rather than formal credentials or authority. This means that anyone, regardless of their background or education, can gain recognition within the hacker community if they demonstrate the ability to solve problems or push technological boundaries. It is about just innovation and pushing technological boundaries. This meritocracy approach fosters a spirit of inclusivity and fairness, where the community values practical achievements and contributions over hierarchy or institutional power. Related cultural values is the rejection of centralized control. Hackers tend to oppose systems where a small number of entitled hold power, whether in government, corporations, or technology platforms. And you already know this is the main thing about capitalism. By doing so, they are kind of like maybe against capitalism as well. Instead, they champion decentralized, where power and control are distributed across many networks. This is evident in their preference for peer-to-peer systems, open source software, and internet protocols that avoid central authority. Hackers see decentralization as a way to preserve individual freedom, resist surveillance, which is also part of capitalism. Recently, we talked about surveillance capitalism written by Shoshana Zuboff. So hackers basically preserve individual freedom, resist surveillance, and promote autonomy, ensuring that no single group has the ability to control information or resources. Finally, many hackers value ethical considerations and the potential of hacking to serve as a force for good. While some hackers engage in malicious or illegal activities, many, particularly white hat hackers, use their skills to identify security vulnerabilities and help improve systems. Others engage in hacktivism, where hacking is used as a form of political activism, exposing corruption, censorship, or abuses of power. The ethical dimension of hacker culture is often complex and diverse, but at its core, it involves using technical knowledge to challenge authority, promote justice, and contribute to a more open and equitable society. Digital subcultures in online communities. Let's now talk a little bit about digital subcultures in online communities. This is also part of our lecture today. So, what is digital subcultures? Digital subcultures are distinct communities that form around shared interests, values, or activities within online spaces, often using digital platforms as their primary mode of interaction. These subcultures develop their own norms, languages, and practices that set them apart from mainstream online communities. They thrive in environments such as forums, social media platforms, video game communities, and other digital ecosystems where individuals can connect across many different geographical boundaries based on common passions and ideologies. Um, Key aspects of digital subcultures, that can be seen as shared interests or beliefs, community and interaction, distinct norms and language, creativity and innovation, resistance to mainstream culture. These are some of the shared key characteristics in this digital subcultures. Let's take a look at a couple of them. The first one is shared identity. Members of digital subcultures share collective identity based on common activities or beliefs. Uh, Digital subcultures involve around specific interests or ideologies, whether related to hobbies, games, coding, fandom, examples of like a music and film, or social political movements like hacktivism or social justice. These shared passions create a strong sense of identity within the group. Online communities interact in different ways. The communication and interaction within digital subcultures primarily occur through online forums, chat rooms, social media groups, and virtual worlds. These interactions foster community bonding, where members exchange ideas, um, offer support to one another, and develop relationships that often extend beyond their shared interests. um Distinct, they will have their own distinct norms and languages. The traditional subcultures the traditional subcultures digital subcultures develop their own jargon, memes, and communication styles. This help these subcultures to distinguish the in-group forum outsiders, and can create a sense of belonging for those who understand the subculture's language and customs. Digital subcultures are often breeding groups for creativity. Members contribute by generating new comments, whether it's artwork, mods, codes, memes, or discussions, sharing the culture and pushing its boundaries. In many cases, this creative energy drives larger digital trends that impact mainstream culture. So the resistance to mainstream culture is also observable in these subcultures. Many digital subcultures are formed in opposition to or as an alternative to mainstream culture. So if it's opposition, we now learned that we will be considering them as counterculture. If it's alternative to mainstream culture, that is a subculture. Whether they challenge conventional norms, question societal structures, or simply offer a space for niche interests, digital subcultures often serve as refuge for individuals who feel marginalized or alienated by the broader society. So the next thing we are going to explore is the influence on behavior. So there are all different kinds of parts of digital subcultures. Echo chambers and digital socialization are two interconnected phenomena that highlight how online environments shape our social interactions, beliefs, and identities. Echo chambers, for example, is a situation where individuals are primarily exposed to information, opinions, and perspectives that reinforce their pre existing beliefs, often excluding opposing viewpoints. This occurs when people create or curate their online spaces, whether intentionally or not, to align with their own ideological preferences. Social media platforms, news feeds, and forums tend to use algorithms that prioritize content based on users' previous interactions, creating a feedback loop where similar ideas are constantly reinforced. In echo chambers, dissenting voices are often absent or minimized, leading to a limited understanding of diverse perspectives. So there is a downside of echo chambers. This can deepen polarization, making individuals less tolerant of opposing views and more confident in their own potentially inaccurate or biased opinions. For example, political echo chambers are common on platforms like Facebook, Twitter, or Reddit, where users primarily engage with content that matches their views, leading to groupthink or ideological rigidity. I also observed myself that some echo chambers are created by extremist groups, and that they reinforce the ideas they have and they support one another. It just some ideas sound like an echo in this echo chambers. Digital socialization, on the other hand, refers to the process by which individuals learn norms, values, behaviors, and communication styles through interaction in online spaces. Just as socialization in the offline world, socialization offers in the face-to-face settings like families, schools, and peer groups, digital platforms have become significant arenas for social learning and identity formation, especially among younger generations. Through digital socialization, individuals adopt and internalize the culture of their online communities. This can include learning specific language, for example, internet slang or memes, developing shared interests, for example, fandoms, activism, and acquiring social roles within the virtual group. These interactions shape not only how people perceive themselves, but also how they relate to others and society at large. While digital socialization allows for broader access to global networks and diverse cultures, it can also lead to fragmentation of individuals primarily socialized within niche of homogeneous groups as seen in echo chambers. This selectively exposure can hinder the development of critical thinking and empathy for different perspectives. So the next thing we want to explore is the dark web and digital crime as subcultures. The dark web and digital crime are closely related phenomena that highlight the underbelly of the internet, where illegal activities and illicit marketplaces thrive away from the oversight of traditional law enforcement and regulations or regulatory bodies. Dark web, dark web is a part of the internet that is intentionally hidden and inaccessible through standard web browser like Chrome or Firefox. It operates on encrypted networks such as Tor or the Onion router, which anonymized users' identities and locations. While not all activity on the dark web is illegal, its structure makes it a heaven for illegal activities, as it provides high levels of privacy and protection from surveillance. The dark web should not be confused with the deep web, which simply refers to the part of the internet that is not indexed by search engines, but includes illegitimate private database, academic resources, and subscription-based services. The dark web, on the other hand, contains websites that hide their IP addresses and or designed to be accessed anonymously. Digital crime on the dark web. That dark web is notorious for being a hub for various forms of digital crime. Many criminal activities take place in underground marketplaces and forums where users can buy and sell illegal goods and services anonymously. Some common types of digital crime associated with dark web can be, for example, illegal trades, cybercrime services, identity theft and fraud, human trafficking and exploitation, privacy and intellectual property theft. These are all of them the parts of dark web and cybercrime. Their key characteristics are the anonymity. The dark web provides high levels of highest levels of anonymity for users, and illicit activities. That dark web is notorious for hosting illegal activities like drug trafficking, weapon sales, human trafficking, and illegal marketplaces. Um, Also, legitimate users, some use the dark web for legitimate reasons, such as political activists in oppressive regimes, journalists, or whistleblowers seeking anonymity. The digital crime, there are different sorts of digital crime. For example, the dark web hosts illicit marketplaces where users can purchase illegal drugs, firearms, counterfeit money, and stolen goods. These transactions are often contradict um, or conducted using cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which often offer an additional layer of anonymity and security for buyers and sellers, that they don't use their credit cards or anything like that. Cyber crime services is another one. Digital criminals offer crimes such as hacking, phishing kits, ransomware, and distributed denial of service (DDoS) attacks on the dark web. Hackers may also sell tools to bridge systems, or they may offer their services to hire to attack specific individuals, corporations, or government institutions. Identity theft and fraud is also part of digital crime. Personal data, including stolen credit cards, card numbers, social security numbers, medical records, and login credentials, are frequently bought and sold on the dark web. Criminals use this information to commit fraud, identity theft, and other financial crimes. Human trafficking and exploitation have been also part of this digital criminal space. The dark web facilitates human trafficking networks, including the sale of stolen or trafficked human organs and illegal services, including child exploitation material. This is one of the most disturbing aspects of the dark web, where anonymity allows for the sharing of illegal and harmful content that is difficult to track or shut down. Another very important part of the digital crime is privacy and intellectual property theft. The dark web is a hot spot for piracy, where copyright materials like movies, music, and software are distributed without permission. Additionally, users may find counterfeit versions of legitimate products or engage in an illegal sale or stolen intellectual property. There is always, of course, law enforcement involves with this kind of stuff. While the dark web offers layers of protection for criminals, law enforcement agencies have developed increasingly sophisticated techniques to monitor, infiltrate, and shut down illegal activities. High-profile operations such as the takedown of Silk Road, a major dark web marketplace for illegal drugs, illustrate that law enforcement can still penetrate some dark web operations. However, because of the decentralized and encrypted nature of the dark web, many criminal activities continue to evade authorities. Law enforcement agencies around the world collaborate to develop new strategies for tackling digital crime, including working with cybersecurity experts, tracking cryptocurrency transactions, and deploying undercover agents in dark web communities. And now we're going to talk about the paper assigned to you for this week. At least we want to highlight or review the main parts of your article, which Coleman, this is the introduction titled how now you have got our attention of hacker hoaxed whistleblower spy, the many faces of Anonymous by Gabriella Coleman, outlines the key themes of her investigation into the Anonymous movement. The complexity of Anonymous. She talks about how complex Anonymous is. The Coleman emphasizes the multifaceted nature of Anonymous, a centralized collective that spans from hacktivists fighting for freedom of information to engaging in online trolling. She introduced the challenge of defining Anonymous because it is not a singular identity, but a fluid, ever-evolving collective with diverse motives and actions. Some of her main arguments in this article is the power of anonymity. We just talked about dark web, that anonymity is a power. There all kinds of illegal things can take place in the anonymous spaces. There can be selling and buying of illegal stuff. It can be exploitive stuff. It can be trafficking. All of those, stuff can be done anonymously. Coleman argues that anonymity is central to this group's power, which is called Anonymous. Anonymous operates under the mask both literally with their guy focus symbol, and also allowing members to act without personal consequences. Because you're anonymous, there's no consequences for your actions, right? And she also talks about the shift from trolling to activism. She discusses how Anonymous transitioned from earlier initial being an online subculture rooted in humor and chaos trolling to a politically engaged collective activism that took on serious global causes. This shift was triggered by events like the Church of Scientology protest and politicized many members and led to a more organized form of activism or hacktivism. She talks about also ambiguity of morality and ethics. When it comes to anonymous, when you think of being anonymous itself just makes that morality questionable. The introduction delves into the ambiguity of anonymous moral and ethical standing. While some actions by anonymous have been celebrated for exposing corruption or promoting social justice, just opening up the stuff that's hidden from individuals that get to know those stuff. Other actions like hacking or doxing raise ethical concerns. So anonymous is kind of like ambiguous when it comes to moral and ethical issues. Attention as a political tool. She talks about how Anonymous uses media and public attention to exert pressure on governments, corporations, and organizations by disrupting their status quo and drawing widespread attention to issues through their actions. They make it impossible to ignore their demands or grievances. This is the part that, kind of like sounds more justice-based, more towards morality. And this is the main parts of her argument. So in today's lecture, it was rather longer lecture. We talked about cyber crimes, cyber subcultures as deviant subcultures. We explored the origins of hacker culture. We defined hacker culture, its origins, so many initial hacker groups, and then main purposes the hacking used or developed over time, and the ethical issues it raises. We talked about dark web and the other criminal online subcultures. And this is our today's class, and thank you for listening. I will talk to you in our next lectures. Bye.